Salawat Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Wow. Guys, that's a dead salawat. The Salawat Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. On behalf of the Mahdi Youth Society, I'd like to welcome you all to our first ever university fair. My name is Ashraf Sayyid. I'm the president of the Mahdi Youth Society, and I'm here to briefly introduce the event and then pass it over to our amazing speakers that we have for our keynote address, as well as for the panel discussion. So the single-day university fair aims to offer a unique opportunity for students and parents to explore a wide range of university and college programs in one place. With students from a wide range of educational programs and institutions, this fair offers a comprehensive overview of various academic programs, admissions processes, and campus life. Attendees, all of you, will have the ability to engage in one-on-one conversations with current students to gain valuable insights into academic offerings and unique features of each institution. Whether an attendee is a high school student planning for the next step in their education or a parent seeking to get more information for their kid, this university fair is designed to provide the information both to students and parents to make an informed decision about higher education. Participating university students, also known as our student ambassadors, will showcase their strengths, answer attendee questions, and offer guidance on potential career paths associated with different programs. Beyond academics, students can discuss aspects of campus cultures, extra activities beyond their academics, and support services available to students. The agenda for today is as follows. We'll begin with the Qur'an Recitation by Brother Raza, followed by a keynote address by Brother Raza Jafri, and then a panel discussion with Brother Faris Hussain, Sister Fatima Mazhar, and Brother Zain Jafri. Following that, we will open the entire session to an open networking portion where students have the ability to stop by at different booths and ask the student ambassadors questions regarding their programs. I want to first of all apologize that we are a bit behind schedule, so please forgive us for that, but inshallah we will get into it immediately. So let's call up Brother Ahmad Raza for our Qur'an recitation with a loud salawat Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والفجر وليال عشر والشفع والوتر والليل إذا يسر هل في ذلك قسم لذي هجر ألم تر كيف فعل ربك بعاد إرم ذات العماد التي لم يخلق مثلها في البلاد وثمود الذين جابوا الصخر بالواد وفرعون ذي الأوتاد الذين طغوا في البلاد فأكثروا فيها الفساد فصب عليهم ربك صوت عذاب إن ربك لبالمرصاد فأما الإنسان إذا ما ابتلاه ربه فأكرمه ونعمه فيقول ربي أكرمن وأما إذا ما ابتلاه فقدر عليه رزقه فيقول ربي أهانن كلا بل لا تكرمون اليتيم ولا تحاضون على طعام المسكين وتأكلون التراث أكلا لما وتحبون المال حبا جما كلا إذا دكت الأرض دكا دكا وجاء ربك والملك صفا صفا وجيء يومئذ بجهنم يومئذ يتذكر الإنسان وأنى له الذكرى يقول يا ليتني قدمت لحياتي فيومئذ لا يعذب عذابه أحد ولا يوثق وثاقه أحد يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Thank you for that beautiful recitation, Brother Ahmad Raza. Next, we will have our keynote address by Brother Raza Jafri, but just before I invite him up, I'd like to share a quick introduction about him. Brother Raza Jafri is a world-renowned speaker, investor, and global entrepreneur with experience building organizations from the ground up. Coming from humble beginnings and a desire to keep social impact and human-centric values at the core of all of his endeavors, his latest venture builds world-class digital twin environments for clean tech and smart city organizations. Meta World X was launched at the World Smart City Congress in Barcelona, Spain. By the way, that's his company, Meta World X. He completed his graduate studies at Queen's University, where he obtained an executive MBA from the Smith School of Business in Kingston, Ontario. He holds a bachelor's degree in urban planning and sustainable development from Concordia University in Montreal, Quebec. He loves motivating next generation entrepreneurs. He loves playing hockey, traveling the world, and architecture. Brother Raza Jafri speaks multiple languages and in his spare time volunteers building education-focused charities, particularly supporting orphans in developing nations. He also serves on multiple boards and advises tech founders in Canada and the United States. That's what was scripted, but if I can say some words about Raza Bhai. I've known Raza Bhai for the past few years. He is a person who brings passion and energy to any room he walks into. He's been an inspiration for me, for the Mahdi youth, and inshallah, with his help, I'm always inspired to take Mahdi youth to the next level. He's always involved with the community, and this place here at Mahdi is his home, and he has a very special place for it in his heart. Aside from Al-Mahdi, he's involved with Hope Charity, helping orphans and promoting education, which I'm sure you all are aware of. And I'm not sure if any of you remember, but during Ramadan, I think of 2020, when we released the new Al-Mahdi building project presentation, it was actually Raza Bhai's company that created the entire presentation. So Raza Bhai is an amazing avenue of inspiration, of hope for all of us as youth. And inshallah, after his address, he is willing to stay back to answer any questions and offer any advice or guidance as needed. So inshallah, let's invite him up with a loud salawat, Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. This is fine.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Can everyone hear me? Awesome. 2 requests to start. First, can we please recite a Surah Fatiha for our older brother, Sayyid Asad Jafri? Bismillah. Second request. Thank you so much. Second request. Take a look around the room right now, please. Take a look at everybody in this room. These are the future leaders of our country, of our province, of our city, but most importantly, of our community. This is my home, Al-Mahdi. I moved here, I feel like I immigrated from Quebec. I moved here about maybe 12, 13 years ago. I married Fatma Baji, many of the sisters here know. This is my home now. So being close to you guys, being here in front of you right now, I don't deserve it. I'm a big failure, but hopefully you can learn a little bit from some of the lessons that I've learned in my life, right? And Asad Bhai was a huge inspiration, huge. But we have to learn from the gifts that he gave us and the gifts that the Ahlul Bayt has given us and try to build a better society for all of us. So I'm just trying to keep my composure here because I miss him a lot. I actually had a dream about him last night. But it's very important to get this message across. I want to thank Mahdi Youth Society for holding this event. And it's full circle for me to be here because in 2012 I was sitting right there. There was a presentation right here about business, and Dragon's Den was huge back then, right? And we had someone from the community who worked at IBM. I was like, whoa, he works at IBM and he goes to our center? Like, how is that possible? And he's talking about, guys, we have to build companies, organizations, and really strengthen our community from the grassroots level. That really resonated with me because we come from very humble beginnings, not just in Quebec, but in Pakistan, India before that. So I was like, I need to do more. Just working, 9 to 5 and maybe not getting a master's degree. I was like, no, I have to try. Because I'm not very intelligent like you guys. I needed to have those to give myself the confidence, right? So that day in 2012, I will never forget. They said that if you have a business idea, there's going to be people and uncles in the community that will listen to you and they may even support your business. I was like, wow, what a community. In Montreal, we were having like roof leaks every day, and here people are talking about businesses. I was like, this is awesome. So that pushed me. That pushed me a little harder. You're going to start a family. Think about what kind of world you want to bring them into. So now that you took a look around at the future leaders, you got a glimpse of where this community, inshallah, is going to go and where it's meant to be. This is my community, as I said, and here's my story. So the three concepts I want to focus on today are purpose, perspective, and pursuit. We're going to learn to better build our purpose, and we're going to understand why that should drive our perspective and how that should fuel our pursuit. Pursuit is going to be our tangible habits to get us back to our purpose. And in the end, I'm going to tie it all into the Ahlul Bayt, inshallah. So can I please get a loud salawat?
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Ashur knows I like talking a lot, so please let me know when it's time to cut me off. Just go like this. Okay, so essentially, purpose, perspective, pursuit. A couple of weeks ago, I was speaking at a college in Mississauga, and I didn't realize this would have such a huge impact on the students there. I was so excited to share this with them because what I shared with them and what I'm sharing with you even more is not a story about my business. It's about me, my struggles. How did I break through barriers? Because there is a glass ceiling, and we're going to get back to that. What is that glass ceiling, and how are we going to overcome it, inshallah? So I have a confession to make. First of all, I didn't sleep last night. I didn't sleep last night because I was excited. I was excited for this moment because I picture my younger self sitting in that crowd. I wish someone gave me this advice, right? When I was your age. So my story actually starts way before I was born. In a small village in India. My dad's born in Paharsil. It's Rajasthan. It's just outside of Agra. Family, life, work was very good. All of a sudden, something happened. What happened in 1947? Does anybody know? Between India? Partition? Yes, exactly. Partition was devastating for a lot of people. In the middle of the night, my father's family had to leave their comfort. They had all the comforts. They had to leave all of that in the middle of the night and go to a new country. This is a lesson. Never get too comfortable wherever you are. They had to leave in the middle of the night and save their life and get to this new country. They eventually came to Karachi, Pakistan, and they settled there. They had to start from nothing. At the age of 8, my grandfather, my dada, took my dad to an exhibition in the middle of Karachi where Quaid-e-Azam's Mazar is, the founder of Pakistan, right? So they're at this Mazar, and there's an exhibition going on. And some of you I may have shared this story with in the past. There's a car sitting right in the middle of the exhibition. Beautiful car. It has stickers from all over the world. And my dad goes to my dada, he's like, why ye stickers kyun is gari pe? Why are there all these stickers on the car? So my dada looks at my father and he says, Beta, I think that this car has been to all these countries. My dad, being the naughty, curious type, he's like, ye gari, this car gets to travel the world and we, the humans that build these cars, are stuck here in Karachi? My dada says, listen, there's no limit to where you can travel. I cannot give you that now, but you can give yourself wings. Study something that allows you to fly. Daddy took that a little literally. He became an aeronautical engineer, worked for Air Canada. He's retired now, but he got to travel the world. He always told me, he's like, poverty is a driver. Ghurbat, poverty, is a driver. Use it to fuel yourself. Comfortable people do not build character. Struggles do. There's a fine line between burden and blessings. Think about it. Some of us, our parents are aging. Certain people in this society may look at that as a burden. We, the followers of Ahlul Bayt, look at that as a blessing. Taking care of our parents, what better gift can we give to ourselves for our akhirah than taking care of our parents? Right? So he then, as he got older, became an aeronautical engineer. He was in the Pakistani Air Force and PIA, left the comfort. Notice the same thing keeps coming up. To grow, you have to leave your comfort zone. Same with the gym. When we go to the gym and if we use the same weights every day, you don't grow. You need to start increasing them. That's life. The pressure, the parishaniya, they grow. That doesn't mean we cave and we back down. We fight. He ended up coming to Miami as a refugee. Then he was in Chicago washing dishes. And there's nothing wrong with that. I washed dishes. That was my first job at Swiss Chalet. My boss's name was Raza too, but he was really mean. Didn't like that, Raza. But the point is that after that, he finally got a job in his field. It took years at IMP Aviation in Halifax. Remember that, Halifax. Because 30 years later, something else happened in that same hangar. So then he was in Halifax, he got married, he took his mom to Umrah, went to Pakistan, got married, brought my mom to Canada. They were visiting Montreal for the summer. My mom told him, she's like, why don't you take your resume with you? I heard Montreal's an aviation hub. He's like, good idea. So he takes his resume. Next thing you know, my parents end up staying in Montreal and he gets a job at Air Canada. So alhamdulillah, 35 years, he lived there, worked there, we were all born and raised there. For me, my story is a little less interesting, but you see where it starts, the struggle. I grew up with our siblings in a province, and some of us know that there were a couple of problems in that province. Who knows what happened in 1995 in Quebec? It's a major political thing. I heard it. Referendum? You got it. So I was really young during that referendum. There was one in 1980 to separate Quebec from Canada, and then there was one in 1995. Half our street emptied out, moved, packed up and left. They're like, why are we going to stay in this province when we have no future? As people who speak English, mostly, it's becoming a hostile environment. We couldn't leave. My dad had his job, right? So I told my dad, I was 9 or 10 years old. I said, Daddy, I don't know if I'm going to have a future here. Think about it. We just kept from India to Pakistan, Pakistan to Canada. Now I'm in Quebec and I'm like, oh my God, what happened to my parents might happen to me. I might be forced to leave for political reasons. So as a kid, it was embedded into my mind, don't get too comfortable. Have this, it's like a good anxiety, right? Fast forward, when I started my university, I wish I was smart, like some of you guys, like, mashallah, studying commerce, studying, medicine, law, like my brothers here. I was like, what can I get into that kind of impresses my parents, but I can get into? Anyways, I found a program that I felt suited me. I grew up playing a game called SimCity. Who's heard of SimCity? Right? I still play it. But now I play it for real world stuff. But essentially, I love that game so much. I just fell in love with the fact that as an urban planner, you can help increase the quality of life of citizens in a city. I was like, that's amazing. That's so, for me, it hits the Islamic thing, it hits everything, makes my parents happy because I could sell it to them. Be like, ye jo aapka shehar hai, behtar ho jayega. They're like, okay, beta. So I got into urban planning at Concordia. When I started, it was 2006, I think, 2005, 2006. My mamu from Dubai, he's like, bahut acha program. It was a very good program. He's like, there's a lot of jobs in Dubai for that. I'm like, yes. I'm like, Ammi, I'm going to go to Dubai. A few years later, when I was graduating, 2008, 2009, the world fell apart. Global recession. So bad that my mom who called from Dubai is like, beta, job milegi Canada mein? I'm like, it's really bad. So there went all my hopes and dreams. Again, you have to move. Where do I go? Our professor at Concordia, French Canadian, Dr. Pierre Gauthier, he's like, if you want the future, you should leave Quebec. I was like, oh man, he's right. So I graduated, I think it was 2008, almost 2009. It was winter. Back then, winter used to be serious, not like this. It was like minus 20. We're packing the car to come to visit Toronto. And my dad's like, I'm going to introduce you to some of my friends who are engineers and planners in the city of Mississauga. Just come, you have nothing to lose. I'm like, awesome. We get in the car. My mom comes running out of the house. She's like, phone. I'm like, it must be important. She's not wearing her shoes. And it's minus 20. So I run inside. And it was a job I had applied to a couple of weeks ago. My dad found it in the newspaper because it was related to the airline industry. He's like, beta, just try it. So I'm like, okay. So I applied and they're like, congratulations, you got the job. And it was for an airline. And but you're not going to be based in Montreal, you're going to be based in Toronto. I was like, Dad, it's in Toronto. He's like, take it. Like, we're going to Toronto right now. I'm like, okay, when do I have to report to duty? They're like, in 2 weeks. So now my life just changed. I had to go from my car, take my little handbag, and take a black garbage bag instead and put all my clothes in as much as I can, stuff it in the car, and now I'm moving to Toronto. I come down to 401, I'm in Mississauga, and I start staying with my friends, that I knew as a child. My parents come to visit a couple of days later, and they're like, yeah, you can't live like this. I'm like, why? There are 5 of us in a 4-bedroom basement. So then I found my own place, alhamdulillah. But Toronto opened my eyes. See, growing up in Quebec, it's great, but it's a very relaxed lifestyle. The culture is very different. It's very European. Here, I was like, wow, there's opportunities. Immigrants can come to Canada and buy a house in a couple of years. I know that's not true anymore. It takes 300 years to buy a house now. But the point is, I was just shocked at how much possibilities there are, right? So essentially, I was like, okay, you may not find a job in your field right now. The world is falling apart. In architecture, engineering, and planning especially, there was nothing. Just be patient. So that's when I had 3 jobs at the same time. I met my back then soon-to-be spouse, and that's where we planned that, inshallah, we want to get married for the purpose of helping orphans, of helping our family and our community, and building a legacy that we can give back when we leave this dunya. And so we started working backwards. So now we're partway through that journey, and that's essentially was a huge moment in my life that made me realize that now I have a partner. I'm not alone anymore, right? So marriage for me was a huge blessing because it allowed me to have someone fight the voices in my head that, oh, are you afraid? Are you weak? She was like, you're crazy, but you can do it. She believed in me. And then tragedy struck. It was 2013. I was working finally in something in my field. I was working on a project in Edmonton. It was a biofuel recycling facility. It was really cool. I was like, yeah, sustainability. Yeah, I don't have a job in urban planning, but it's close. And I was using AutoCAD, and I was finally using some of my skills, right? I built this biofuel facility in Edmonton, and I was like, wait a minute, Mazania. I designed it all, and I sent it to the client and the city of Edmonton, but they were looking at AutoCAD files. It just doesn't, resonate. I was like, what kind of technology is there out there that can show visualization of what's coming? Gaming technology. Who was using gaming technology? Hollywood was. Matrix and these kind of movies, etc. I was like, why can't we fuse gaming technology into urban planning, architecture, and engineering? So the idea of entrepreneurship was brewing. The tragedy that changed everything, that really unleashed me to strive towards entrepreneurship was my birthday that year. The day after, my friend back in Montreal was walking to work. He was fasting, it was Ramzan. I think it was the second or third day of Ramzan. I was at work. I started getting messages from Montreal friends, and they're like, did you see the news? Did you see the news? Did you hear what happened? I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, did a hockey player get traded, like that I should know about, or what? My friend passed away. Yeah, so he was walking to work, and a 2-ton steel plate on a construction site crushed him to death. This accident could have been avoided. It was considered construction negligence. His name is Saad Sayed. His parents relied on him for income. He was the breadwinner of the family. This hit me because I always looked up to him. And now he's gone. So I realized whatever I do, I have to do it to make this world a better place. Use proactive. If the technology doesn't exist, build it. Go find the solution that can prevent this accident. You're an urban planner. Why is this happening? You build these buildings that allow waste to become ethanol, clean energy. You feel good about yourself? Are you saving any lives? Are you doing what Imam Ali and the Prophet wanted you to do? Are you helping the world? Are you helping the ummah? What more could you be doing? He's gone. So now I started realizing, I'm like, wait, don't get comfortable. Do not get comfortable. You have a good job, great. At that same time, I did something very radical. We were expecting our first child. My wife was pregnant. I said, this is it. I'm going to go do my master's. I always wanted to do my master's at Queen's because they had a very good master's in urban planning program. But now I was like, you know what? If I don't want to work in the municipalities, let me get an MBA. But because I had the management experience, let me try for the executive MBA. So the day we found out at Markham Stouffville Hospital that inshallah we're having a daughter, that's the day it hit me. I'm like, I really need to step up now. The whole rest of the afternoon, rather than working, I was looking at programs that I was interested in. I found a program at the university I wanted, Queen's. Rotman was another contender, and Ivy, Western was another contender. But I was like very interested in the Queen's one because it's a global executive MBA. They have 4. They have regular, they have accelerated MBA for the people with like commerce backgrounds. They have the executive MBA, and then they have the it's called MBA of Americas. That's Cornell, Queen's, you get double degrees, double MBA. Costs more, obviously. So I'm like, the Desi in me, I'm like, which one is like, bang for buck? So unfortunately, it was still over $100,000. And I applied, I got the interview, I crushed the interview. I was wearing shorts, but a blazer on top. The director didn't know, it was all on Zoom. So, but she told me, she's like, look, if you don't get into this year's MBA, you'll get into the next year one. But I was like worried. I was like, by then I'll have my kid. Will it be harder? And executive MBA is very difficult because you're working full time. And then you're going on weekends to Kingston and sometimes here, So I was like, okay, whatever Allah wants, whatever Allah's will is, because you have to find that comfort in the discomfort. She told me I'll let you know in 4 days. The next day, the director calls and I didn't want to tell Fatma, but I was like, oh man, for sure I'm not getting in my grades. But the director says, you know what, congratulations, you got in. Because you come from an industry that's so unique. Most of the students were coming from commerce and this and that. I was coming from design, architecture, planning, and I told her what I was passionate about. So it really resonated. And then, she was like, okay, grades or whatever, it's all good. So alhamdulillah, Fatma and I started jumping with joy. We were happy, we were crying. And then I was like, wait a minute, how are we gonna pay for this? I was like 20 something years old and we have a baby coming, right? So I asked the director, not a smart thing to do when they tell you just got accepted, like, I don't know if I can afford this. I was like, is there any way? Like, you guys have something called OSAP, right? I couldn't because it's an executive program and you're working, right? So she's like, no. She's like, we have something with RBC Bank. You can try, right? So I'm like, okay, inshallah. I call RBC Bank the next day. I'm so nice to the guy. I'm like, I'll pay it back and this and that. He's like, bro, you're accepted. I'm like, how? He's like, people that do this program within 1 year usually pay it off. I'm like, okay, inshallah. Hopefully I'll be one of them. So alhamdulillah, you took the step. There was no way that I thought I could financially or physically, time-wise, how are you going to separate your time? But we got through that time. And one thing I realized after that program was time and organization is critical. You don't realize how much time you actually have, but you should divide your day into 4 main things. A, remembrance of Allah, keeping that connection going. And Allah, everything we do can be connected back to that, subhanAllah. The second thing is your health. Make time for your health. Go to the gym or be alone, do yoga, whatever it is, very important. Third, your connection with your family. See, I'm standing here and I'm thinking about the time when I was your age, just sitting there. It went like this. These moments with my parents, these moments with my wife and my children, they fly. Taking time away to be with them is actually nurturing your soul and re-energizing yourself. So don't be shy to make time for your family. It's a mental break. And the fourth thing is your career. Every day, try to do something to build your career. Maybe look at workshops. By even being here right now, you guys are doing such an amazing job at building yourself, building your character, building your career. You could have watched this from home, right? But you came out, you're going to career fairs, you're getting involved. I wish we had more of these things before. We didn't. Think about the kids that live in other cities, Winnipeg, Saskatoon and stuff. They wish they had these kind of things. I'm joking, there's some Winnipeggers here, it's all good. But yeah, how am I doing on time? Because now I'm going to switch it. Ready? Okay. Something I don't usually get to do, tie this all back to faith. I started off with purpose, perspective. Who remembers the last one? Pursuit. Excellent. We all need to build our purpose. Everything that's going around in the world right now is happening for a reason. It should make our purpose stronger. Our perspective. Because when we build our purpose, we have anything that happens around us, whether it's family related, school related, health related, career related, how we react depends on our perspective. So if our perspective is aligned to our purpose, which is satisfying Allah and getting into Jannah, then we know that our purpose is aligned with our perspective. And pursuit is the tangible, the micro habits of the macro goal every day that you're doing. Your exercise is included. Don't feel guilty for taking time for your health. Don't feel guilty for walking away from coworkers and being like, I need to go do ablution and pray. Don't feel guilty about these things because this is who you are. Our fitrat is to live beyond this world. In Nahj al-Balagha, Imam Ali talks about it. It's Sermon 223. He's like, this dunya is fani, temporary. We're living for the baki, right? Eternal. Sorry, I forgot what that meant. And then, this is where I wanted to tie in the Ahlul Bayt. Salawat ala Muhammad ala Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
What will help us build our purpose is knowledge. Who better to learn from than the most knowledgeable who came into this world? Imam Jafri Sadiq alayhi salam.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali
Think about it. They lived in a time where all that knowledge they had, they were imprisoned. The second they had to come in front of students, they shared their knowledge. They shared their wisdom. Today we have knowledge on our doorstep, and if we don't seek it, shame on us. They brought that knowledge out from the holes of the prison door to us. And we're sitting here and we're like, oh man, gotta walk to school today. Don't be afraid. Knowledge is the key for every illness. Next is bravery. Hazrat Abbas. He went to get water for the children. He brought something even more powerful than water to us, and that's hope. Do not give up. Even if you know that walking through that gate will have 1,000,000 arrows coming towards you, swords coming towards you, people throwing rocks at you, spitting at you, you walk. You don't walk, you run. Because the ones that need you rely on you. This community needs you. Everybody here needs each other. If there's disputes within the community, overlook them. There's disputes in family. Does that mean they're not family anymore? No. There's disputes in community. Does that mean we are not a community anymore? Absolutely not. What did Asad teach us? We have to live for the hereafter. You don't get there by being selfish, right? And the last thing after that helps us build purpose is knowledge, bravery, patience. Bibi Zainab alayhi salam. Bibi Zainab, it was only the heart of Zainab alayhi salam which was able to withstand those moments in Karbala and the tragedies which followed. Hence the poet writes, I do not know whether Zainab was created to master patience or patience was created to derive from Zainab. Subhanallah. Also wanted to share a couple of more quotes because I didn't sleep last night. Every container becomes tightly packed. Think about it. Every physical container becomes tightly packed because of what you put in it, except for the container of knowledge, for it surely expands. Imam Ali alayhi salam. And this is from the Quran, Surah Mulk, verse 19. When you are all in your boardroom or living life or being successful, think about this verse. Do they not see the birds above them with the wings outspread and sometimes folded in? None holds them aloft except the most merciful. Think about who got you to wherever you are. Sitting in this room with our stomachs fed, with the bed at home that we have, without bombs dropping. Allah brought us here for a purpose. It's in the Quran. Imam Hussein says, a man who can only raise himself to the level of excellence by undaunted struggle. A man can only raise himself to the level of excellence by undaunted struggle. Struggle is what builds character. The amount of times people try to take advantage of me and put you down and say this and that, close the door. A door closing for you means you have to pivot and find a better door. Do not stop. Failure and doors closing is actually the key to success, because that wasn't the door for you. And when you look back, a few years later, you realize that alhamdulillah, those doors closed for me. A man can only raise himself to the level of excellence by undaunted struggle, like I said, Imam Hussein. But most people quit when they don't have a winning advantage right away, but fail to realize that success takes time, and usually during that time of struggle that we attain the most knowledge. During that time of struggle, you attain the most knowledge. Our journey is as important as the destination itself. And the last thing I want to share with you is, remember I mentioned in the beginning glass ceiling, right? We all talk about this. I'm a woman. I can't penetrate that glass ceiling. I'm a Muslim. I have a beard. My name is Sayyid Muhammad Raza Jafri. I can't. Alhamdulillah for these glass ceilings. Did you forget the door of Khaybar? Think of that glass ceiling you will break as the door of Khaybar and say, Nare Haydari! And break that glass ceiling. Jazakallah.
Salawat Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Thank you for that inspiring keynote address, Brother Raza Jafri. Just a reminder that Raza Bhai will be here for the open networking portion. So inshallah, if you have any questions about his journey, his pathway, his current role as a CEO, feel free to stop by and inshallah ask him questions. Next, we will be proceeding to our panel discussion focused on navigating higher education paths. The panelists for this discussion will be Brother Faris Hussain, who is a JD candidate at the University of Ottawa, Sister Fatima Mazhar, a resident physician of family medicine at U of T, and Brother Zain Jafri, a MD candidate at McMaster University. The host for this discussion will be Brother Zahib Raza, who is a third-year life science student at McMaster University. So inshallah, let's invite up all of these panelists as well as our host with a loud salawat Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
You can just pass this as long as you guys answer.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Can you guys hear me well? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us. We're all excited to have you here, and we're especially excited to have three wonderful guests of ours. Brother Faris Hussain, who, like Usher mentioned, is a JD candidate at the University of Ottawa. Sister Fatima Mazhar, resident physician, family medicine at U of T, and then Zain Jafri, who's a medical student at McMaster University. So can we all welcome our panelists with a loud salawat, inshallah.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
All right, let's get started then. So the first question that we had was, we all wanted you to sort of share a quick introduction about yourself, maybe talk about your pathway, talk about what inspired you to chase your dream. Feel free to talk about, what schools you attended, what extracurriculars you had. And yeah, we'll start with Sister Fatima at the end, and then we'll work ourselves this way.
Thank you. Salam, everyone. Sorry, I have my laptop so I don't forget things. I think a lot of you know me. There's a lot of really young guys here that probably don't, but I grew up here at Al-Mahdi. I'm very happy I'm no longer doing all the hard work you guys are doing at Mahdi Youth. I remember a lot how many sleepless nights you put in for all of that. I did my undergraduate degree in Bachelor of Science in Nursing at what was then Ryerson. It's now TMU. And then I went to McMaster for my undergraduate degree in medicine, and now I'm doing my residency at U of T.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Jafri, and I went to school in Oshawa at a school named, it used to be called UOIT, but now it's called Ontario Tech. I feel really old knowing that a lot of you probably don't even recognize the name UOIT, but back then it was called UOIT. I finished there in 2021. I was studying life sciences, like a lot of the brothers here are, and same as Brother Zahib too. I finished in 2021, and then I started also at the undergraduate medicine program at McMaster just last year, so I'm in my first year.
Assalamu everybody, my name is Faris Hussain. I'm actually new to the community. I have a couple of friends here. I'm not as popular as Brother Zain himself, but I did high school in Kuwait. I went to international school there. After graduating high school, I went to U of T. I did my bachelor's in political science. I studied and graduated in 2021, and then I started Alhamdulillah Law School in 2021, in the middle of the pandemic or towards the end. And Alhamdulillah, entering my last semester now. Yeah.
Cool, thank you so much. Farzba, we'll start with you. My question for you is, why law?
It's a good question. So I will start off by saying it wasn't my parents who pressured me into this decision. For me personally, I always grew up wanting to know more about people. I was really interested in how societies are made, how cultures are formed and whatnot. I was really interested in history. And like around grade 9, grade 8, my school had a debating competition. I took part in it and I really enjoyed it. I did really well in it. And I never really thought about law before that. My parents, they actually wanted me to go into medicine because I was really good at science as well. My mom really wanted me to go to medicine. She's quite depressed that I'm in law school now, but so around grade 9, grade 10, I started thinking about law itself. I had a very good history teacher who wanted to go to law school but couldn't end up pursuing the legal field, and he told me about how much he wished he could get involved in law because of the way that law can empower people and minorities in society, especially like ones like Canada and the United States, and how it can be used as a tool to help communities. And so it was from that my history teacher's advice that I actually started giving law a lot more serious thought. And actually, interestingly, I started looking at what it meant to be a Shia and being interested in law. And the tradition of Shiism itself has such deep roots in legal thought and tradition. Imam Ali alayhi salam was known to be a very phenomenal and immaculately minded jurist. Justice was one of the virtues that he believed in strongly. If you look at the Prophet's history, Brother Ali Imran has also talked about this, the way that we created the Treaty of Hudaybiyah to create peace between the Meccans and the Medinians, and the way that we created minority rights in the contract that was created. Islam has a very deep history with law, and as Muslims, especially living in Canada, it's almost incumbent upon us to know the laws of the country that we live in and to empower ourselves. It's very easy when misfortunes happen, and they do in the world we live in and what's going on in the world, there's a lot of misfortunes happening and a lot of people that are being oppressed. It's very easy in that situation to look at yourself and to think that, we're victims and we can't do anything about it, when that's far from the truth. A lot of communities have empowered themselves through the law, and my thought is that inshallah I want to help any brothers and sisters who are interested in law to get into law for the sake of empowering our communities, also to doing well for yourself, because that's important. We have families to provide for as well, but to empower our community and to become leaders, because ultimately we will pass on, and the world that we leave for our children is what, I think Brother Raza talked about this as well, is ultimately what's going to be the goal. So ultimately that's the reason why I got involved, and inshallah, I'm looking forward to having conversations with the rest of you.
Yeah, I was just going to continue on the question for you, Zain and Sister Fatima. Maybe you could talk about why you chose medicine, and then if you wanted to add on or go in specifically about family medicine over other specialties, feel free.
All right, so very unlike Brother Faris's answer, I did not have a very good reason for going into medicine initially. So when I was in grade 12, my marks in chemistry and physics were okay, they weren't bad, but my marks in biology were good. And like many of you and many of us, I was like, okay, I'm either going to be an engineer or a lawyer or a doctor, and I saw that my marks were good in biology, so I was like, okay, sure, I guess I'll be a doctor. So I really, and of course I discourage this. Really do please think about what you want to go into and have a beautifully fleshed out answer, just like Brother Faris just explained to us. That was absolutely amazing. Please do think about what you want to do. Unfortunately, at the start, I didn't really think about what I wanted to do, and that posed its own kinds of obstacles down the way. Alhamdulillah, I'm very, very grateful that along the way I was able to come up with my own reason why I wanted to go into medicine, and I do firmly believe if I wasn't able to come up with these reasons, I don't think I would have pursued it. And that should be the same for all of us. If we don't have a good reason for doing something and we can't tie it back to our faith and our purpose in life, really, then it's going to be really hard to pursue a career as grueling and as tough as medicine. So for me, what it really came down to was a number of things. The first is here in the West, and as economic conditions get more difficult, you do want to go into a career that's going to pay well, that has good security, and ideally, if you can, it's great if you can work for yourself and you can provide yourself that kind of freedom, and to be in that position of privilege, it's a really big deal to be able to do that. And as many of you may know, in medicine, you're given those opportunities. And so one of the reasons was, I'll be very frank, is the economic, financial incentives, you could say, is that you have a lot of freedom and you do make a decent amount of money. So I'm not afraid to say that that's one of the reasons why. The other reason is that obviously it's good to make a decent amount of money, but at the same time, it's good if you can tie it back to a certain purpose that's important to you, and especially if you can enjoy it as well, that's really good as well. So for me, what it came down to is what makes medicine so fulfilling for me is the element of care. I was thankful enough to have had a very personal experience in my life where I've been exposed to care from a very early age, a really early time in my life. I've really seen just how fulfilling it can be to sit down and speak with someone and understand what their concerns are and to be able to care for them. And so for me, I find that is so wonderfully fulfilling. It's obviously very, very encouraged in our religion to take care of people. It's a really, really big blessing. And so that's really what attracted me to medicine in particular. So that's the better reason I've come up with, but please don't be like me. And initially I would say, yeah, I probably became a doctor because my parents wanted me to be, and I didn't really think much about it, but yes.
For sure. I will not shy away from saying it. My dad is sitting right there staring at me. We decided to become a doctor after a very in-depth conversation at the age of 7 with my father. And he gave me 3 options and they were all doctors. But no, to be very honest, it's very different now in the generation you guys are growing up with, but when we had first come to Canada in '97, there were very few Muslim doctors in the landscape. There were very few female doctors in the landscape. And it was very difficult for my mother and other women in the community to get good care that they also felt comfortable getting. And that was a huge draw for me. It's really, when you guys are thinking about your careers, it's hard to think of it that way, but I think it's easier when you're kids to think of it that way because kids are intrinsically less selfish. Thank you so much. But think about what is wajib kifaya on you, right? Like, what do you need to do in the community? Where's the gap? Where do you have to be to make things better? And I think that's been a theme throughout, like with Raza and everyone, that where's the gaps that need to be filled, and really go into that. Like, alhamdulillah, by the time I grew up and got there, now there's a lot more like female physicians out there, there's a lot more Muslim physicians, but that was a huge draw for me as well.
Thank you so much for sharing. This next question is open-ended, so whoever wants to answer it. But we can agree that a lot of our high school students here are struggling to make a decision on what to pursue. I know me personally, I was stuck between science, engineering, and art history. So would you offer any advice on how to select a program or how to select a field in general? Whoever wants to start.
Yeah, sure, I can start. I would definitely say the number one thing that will really make the difference for you, or personally I believe so, and it did make the difference for me, is speaking with people who are not just accomplished in their field, but are also happy to be in their field as well. Speaking with people who have worked, or at least made it past, if you want to go into medicine, at least speak to someone who's gotten into medical school. But ideally, if you can, speak with someone who's, been practicing medicine for 5 or 10 years. Or if you want to go into any field, really speak with someone who has experience in that field, and they can tell you specifically, what does a day at work look like for them? What does a weekend work look like like for them? What does it feel like to have worked in this career for years, for example? That's going to be very different from reading descriptions online or reading about university programs online or even watching YouTube videos. There's only really so much you can find out with them. So the number one tip I would give is I really encourage you guys to go out into the community, ask for, if you're interested in engineering, if you're interested in this thing or that thing, ask and see who is accomplished in that field. Ask to, go grab coffee with them or something and sit them and really grill them and ask them, how much do you like your job? What do you like about this? What do you like about that? How can I get involved? Do you think I would be a good fit for this position? Obviously, it would be really, really good if it's someone who knows you personally, but that's not necessary. So to wrap up, really, I do think go out and speak with people and ask them the difficult questions that you're interested in. And don't keep an open mind. Don't dismiss things just because like, oh, well, I don't like math, so I don't want to do this, or I don't know how to draw, so I can't do this. Those might just be very minor prerequisites to a career that will benefit the community immensely and will also make you a very happy and successful person as well.
So this one was a little trickier for me because I did kind of have a clear idea of what I wanted to do, but I reached out to a lot of my friends who and said, like, what do you wish people told you when you were at this age? And they said really like the same thing that Zen said, like talk to people that are in careers you're interested in. Look to see what's out there. Talk to people you admire in the community that are older than you. Ask them what they do. There's so many jobs out there that you don't even know exist. Like other than lawyer, doctor, engineer, there's a lot of jobs out there. There's success to be had in every industry. But it's just a matter of knowing that they exist. The other things that is advised is also like looking at job postings instead of like those tests that they give you in high school. But like job postings will actually tell you like what is a day-to-day life like in the career that you want. But the main things I think are talking to people. One thing I did want to acknowledge that it's really not fair that the society asks you to make a decision about what you want to do for the rest of your career at the age of 17. Like, it's really not fair. It's a lot of pressure on you guys, and I don't think we acknowledge that enough. So we understand that it's not easy. But whatever you do, try to keep as many doors open for yourself. You can change your mind down the line, but it's harder to change your mind if you've closed doors on yourself early on. And the number one, the two things you can do right now to make sure you always keep doors open for yourself is have good grades and be involved. Those are two things that you can't go back and change once you're older and you want to do more things. But if you've had good grades your whole life and you were involved and had extracurriculars under your belt, then you will have opportunities open even if you change your mind as you understand yourself better.
So first of all, I think they give excellent advice. My advice would be a bit different. I know a lot of that's been said is kind of looking outwards and speaking to people, looking at job postings and whatnot. My advice to all of you would be to look within yourself. There's subjects that you have taken until now. There's hobbies that you have. There's activities that you enjoy doing that show a little bit about what your skill set Allah has endowed you with, what your passion is, what you're leaning towards. And then when I talk like this, a lot of like my parents, when I told them this, they were looking at me like, Beta, like, come on, like, let's get to the point. And that's something that, there's a bit of a generational gap, but if you have these conversations with your parents, inshallah, it'll get even more easier. But my biggest advice to you all would be to look within yourselves. Growing up, you guys have, there's no one here that does not have a hobby or does not have a subject that they're leaning towards or like activities that they enjoy doing. I had one brother, one of my friends in undergrad. He really, from a grade 9, grade 10, around that time, really enjoyed graphic design. His parents wanted him to be a doctor, and they made him take science subjects, whatnot. He was okay in those science subjects, but he wasn't really passionate about it. Wasn't really putting his work into it. He really liked architectural design, graphic design, whatnot. And when he got to university, he really flourished, and he was the president of his graphic design society at university and whatnot. My point is simply this: when you look within yourself and you look at the skill set, the kind of disciplines and education that you like, for instance, whether it's arts, history, science, medicine, whatever it is, when you do something that you're passionate about, your work ethic will follow. If you do something you're not passionate about, your work ethic won't follow and you won't even do well in the thing that you're trying to do. which is to just simply please other people. When you do good work, you get rewarded for it. And I'm not even speaking just materially, like money-wise, metaphysically as well. Like Allah puts barakah in your efforts, especially if you have a sincere intention. So my advice to all of you would be to look within yourselves. Everyone here has something that they're interested in. And if your immediate thought is that you're not interested in anything, you haven't looked hard enough. So I would say do some deep reflections within yourself. And inshallah, may Allah put reward in your efforts.
Inshallah.
No, it's all good. So Faris offered such a wonderful insight of looking into yourself. I just wanted to add on and say that if you don't immediately find something that you're very passionate about or very interested in, like he said, you haven't looked hard enough. I don't want you guys to think that if you don't have a certain talent at this age, or if you don't necessarily have a hobby, you can still find that. You can still develop this thing, even if you're 20, 25, 30. You guys, most of you guys are a lot younger than that. So if you feel like there's nothing you're really passionate about, then go and find something that you think is really cool or really interesting or really impressive. Look at the people that maybe it's in the community, like Fatima Baji was saying, think of someone that you look up to and just be like, wow, that is so cool, I wish I could do that for work. Please don't think that, again, like I said, that you're this fixed growth person, you're like this fixed person that doesn't have that can't be, that's not malleable or can't be changed. If there's something you like doing, you can start doing it and you can start learning it. Sure, if you started it maybe 10 years ago, then you would be a lot better now, but you can still start and get good enough to most likely do it as a career. So please keep looking if you haven't found it, and of course, if there is something that you already like, then you already have your answer there.
So I'm gonna take the reins and say the controversial thing that these guys are probably too young to say right now. But honestly, this time I'm going to talk to the parents and be like, listen to your kids, look at them, see what they're good at. Kids are so passionate, they go into so much depth to things that they like, and they might not like the things that you think are going to make them successful. But there's success in every field, in every industry. Really hone in on what your kids excel at and push them that, like, this is what it means to be Shia, this is what it means to be Muslim, that whatever you do, be the best at, be excellent at. I know there is a fear in immigrants that, if you don't go into these industries, my child will not be successful, they will struggle. But it's not true. I think that is something that is a fear that we have to overcome, and to see where can we push our kids where their talents really lie and they can be successful at, instead of pushing them to where we think they should be, where they're not. They're going to struggle, they're going to really do it because they want to make you happy, but they won't be happy. They have to live that life, right? So yeah, sorry, controversial take.
Thank you so much for sharing. This next question sort of plays on that point, but many people face challenges throughout their academic careers. Maybe it's stress from a parent, maybe it's stress from other avenues, but how would you recommend students access support systems or other resources, and how to sort of incorporate that into their own academic journey? Anyone can start.
So I'm gonna give you guys a secret to life, and it's gonna sound really stupid, but it's true. Ask. If you don't ask someone for help, they will never know you need help, and they will never help you. If you ask someone for help, the worst thing they can do is say no, and you're in the same position you started with. I find I talk to so many people that don't ask for help. Tell your teacher, I'm struggling, I'm having a hard time, I have 3 assignments due, I was sick, my mom was sick, whatever, can I have an extension? The worst thing they can do is say no, and then you're in the same position you were in. But really get used to asking people for help. People want to help you. Most people are genuinely good people, and they want to help you. Also look to see who you're asking and who else you can ask, right? You have teachers, of course. You have your parents you can ask. You have people in the community. You have alims, right? Like Asbai for us was like a huge source of anything we need, we could go to him. We have alims here that want to help you. But being careful on who you ask is also important, because you don't want to, like, I think this might go too much off a tangent if I go into it. But be sure that the sources you're going towards to go get help are not going to try to pull you off a path for other reasons. So yeah, that would be my main advice.
Yeah, I think that was a great answer. I don't have much to add. I can simply just say that for me personally, Fatima Baji's advice has worked so well. I would honestly say some of the most important conversations I've ever had, like some of the most influential conversations I've had where I really needed someone to encourage me after a big failure, have literally just been asking people for advice, specifically from the community, not like people that were my friends at school or anything, but specifically, individuals that we all look up to, like Asad Bhai, like Hisham Bhai, for example. Those remain to be some of the most I would say influential times in my life where if I'd failed or I really needed someone to, help encourage me after having not done as well as I wanted to. And so I really, really implore you guys to find who those people are that you trust, that are accomplished in their fields, and you can get that sort of responsible guidance from.
Yeah, I think, again, the advice was excellent. The only thing that I would add to it would be, if you're facing challenges, you're moving in the right direction. Because if you're not facing challenges, I'll go back to the comfort zone point. You're not actually going anywhere. Maybe this is like a scientific lesson Allah is trying to teach us, but with gravity, it's a force that's constantly trying to pull us down. To get up simply out of bed, you're moving against the force of gravity. So if we're talking about the challenge of finding your career path or finding an educational field that you want to get into, you're bound. This is guaranteed that you're going to face trial and adversity. When I got into U of T in my first year, I had a horrible GPA at the end of the first year. Law school was a far pipe dream. After I got my grades, I was like, I'm not getting into, and when you guys come by individually, I don't even mind sharing, but I did very badly after my first year. And it was after that point, I was like, okay, in high school I did well in history and all these kinds of things, and I was good at debate, but was law school really meant for me? So having a lot of doubts, I had to really, with the advice of people, my parents especially, ironically they were now supporting, but also having good mentors and whatnot, but also just looking within myself because I had a really strong why about what I wanted to do. It allowed me to withstand everything that came at me. I think it was really well said by someone, I can't remember the name, but if you have a very strong why, you can withstand any how. And let that sink in, guys. If you have a very strong reason for what you're doing, you can withstand it when the challenges come. And alhamdulillah, I tried to pull myself together and I managed to get good grades and I managed to get into law school. Alhamdulillah, I'm sitting here now. It's an enormous blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the privilege to speak to you all. But what I'm trying to tell you is that do not start your path thinking that you're going to get, you're going to succeed on every stage. In fact, I would say that if you're having more failures than successes, you're actually trying to do something. And you're probably on the right track. I'm not going to say you're on the right track because then everybody's going to come back to me and say, oh, look, I failed my business and you give me all this advice, whatever. I'm not trying to say that, but what I am trying to say is that life was not meant to be easy. Human beings were built to withstand adversity. Adversity gives us purpose. It also allows us, when we do achieve success, to taste the sweetness of the success. Success would mean nothing if it came without adversity, if we didn't have to work for it. So my biggest advice to you all is to accept the fact that you will face adversity, be content with that fact, and go out and achieve, regardless of whatever outcomes. Don't marry yourself to the outcome, marry yourself to the process. That's what I would say.
Wow, that's great advice. I was just going to say that throughout your academic careers, you've been through multiple, many different schools and institutions and whatnot. I know Zain is OTU's biggest fan. So what are some of the key factors that lead to picking a specific program, a specific school? And does ranking matter? Does prestige matter? Could you just go a bit into that?
So I'm going to give a bit of an annoying answer and say that it really depends on what you want to do. An ongoing theme today is that alhamdulillah, in this country that we're in this part of the world, you can get away with doing so many different things. It's not like back in the day where you only needed to go into medicine or law and that was the only way where you can make it in life. So it really depends. And so I'll go ahead and make my answer about basically, I would encourage you to do research on what it is you want to go into and apply some of the advice that we've said already where you go and speak with people in that field and understand what it is that you need. When I was first applying to university, I was given the advice that the ranking of your university doesn't really matter for medical school, and that's a fact that still stands today. No one looks at whether you went to, Ontario Tech or if you went to Ryerson or UFT. Now, I'm not saying that it doesn't matter what school you go to, but specifically with regards to ranking, that's one thing I learned. That was only by asking and speaking with people who had already succeeded in that field to begin with. So what I would really encourage with regards to picking a school is it really depends. It can make or break your your chances of succeeding in the field that you want to get into, or it might not matter, such as in my case, it really wasn't a big deal. There were other aspects, such as me being closer to home made it easier for me to focus on school as opposed to focusing on commuting from a school that would be very far away. Or for example, if I had to move away somewhere and live on my own, then perhaps I might be distracted by the challenges that come with living on residence and so on. And so for me, what it came down to was I decided to go to somewhere close to my house so I could focus on getting a good GPA. So that's just the game plan that I came up with and I thought would work the best for me, and alhamdulillah, and it did. But what it really comes down to is sit down and think about what you want to do, understand really well what you need to do well in order to get to where you want to be, and then the school is just a means to an end. It's really not the destination. You decide for yourself whether it's useful for it to be a big school, or maybe what's more important for you is that it's closer to home, and so on. So it really comes down to the research that you've done with regards to what you want to do.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that. I have very little to add to that. My main thing would be try to visualize where you want to be. Like when I'm 35, where do I want to be? What do I want to be doing? And then work backwards. And on your way backwards, you'll find there's multiple paths to get to where you want to be. And how much do those individual decisions matter? So like Zen said, there are some careers that are out there that a very specific school or a very specific program will really help you for. And there are some programs where it won't. Like I agree with medicine, it does not matter what school you go to. Talk to people that are already in the schools you want to go into or doing the programs you want to do. Talk to like a first year, a second year, third year student, if you can, and they'll give you a good idea of what to expect. And the things they'll tell you might not be the things you expect. Like when I was doing search, I was between two programs. One person told me that, don't go to this school because their administration is not supportive, because I wanted to transfer some credits or do X, Y, Z, and I had to spend months and months and months chasing them and I still didn't get it. That's not something people think about when they're choosing a school. But that is this person's lived experience, and it had a profound impact on when they were able to graduate, right? So talk to people that are a year or two or three ahead of you. They will have the most up-to-date current knowledge of what the culture of that school is and if it's going to meet the goals that you want.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add is specifically for law school, it doesn't matter where you go to undergrad in Canada. It really just matters how you do in your undergraduate degree. And also it doesn't matter what you do in your undergrad. Like I know people that have gone into law school with music degrees. So it really does not matter what your undergraduate degree was in. One thing I would say is, again, echoing a lot of what they've said, is that some law schools have specific fields that they specialize in. Some are very good at constitutional law, like University of Ottawa is really good in constitutional law. Some schools are very good in corporate commercial. UFT is known for that. So a lot of the programs that they have within those schools are geared towards those specific areas. Again, you don't specialize in an area of law when you graduate law school, but some schools have sort of a specialty, and their faculty is really top scholars in a certain area of law. So probably look at that. But again, for law schools in Canada, alhamdulillah, the good blessing with Canada is that to establish an institution, a university, is difficult enough, and a lot of universities, once they're established in Canada, they're very good, they're well accredited. So don't marry yourself to a specific university. Yes, some universities have prestige, like the UFTs, the McGills, the UBCs, but again, it's about how you do in your undergraduate degree, what experiences you get, what extracurriculars you do. That really, ultimately, if your end goal is more school, that's what really matters, what you do in your degree.
One thing I would recommend is think about how well you have to do in school. And I feel like Faris can probably say more to this than I can because he did his undergrad at UFT, but there are some schools that are known for being really, really tough, and you have to work 3 times as hard to get competitive grades. And there's some schools where that's not necessarily the case. And if you need to graduate university with a 4.0 GPA to get whatever post-grad education you want, then that's something you want to think about, right? So like, again, talk to people that are in the field you're in, that have recently been in that field, to get kind of more up-to-date advice on things.
Zen, I wanted to expand on one point you made on being a commuter versus living on residence or in the area of the school. And I think you've experienced both by going to OTU and now being at McMaster. So what are some of the challenges and benefits to being either a commuter or someone who lives there?
I would say it really depends on your preferences and your experiences. For me, when I moved to Hamilton last year, I was 24. It was my first time living away from home. And so for me, it was a big change. I found, after a month or two, I largely got used to it. Alhamdulillah, we have a good Shia community at McMaster as well. So I had no shortage of, good people to make friends with. So I felt like that made a big difference. I do think that when I was not commuting, I did commute to UIT, but it was like a 20-minute bus ride. It was very convenient. I do think, sure, I had lots more time to spend focusing on school, but like I've seen lots of people, mashallah, in the community that have, they have moved out at the age of 18 to start university, and they've done really, really well, perhaps even better than I have. And so for me, it was a big challenge, but for other people, I see that it's not as much of a challenge. So I guess what it really comes down to is be honest with yourself and see what you're ready to do. If you think that it's going to be a big challenge and it's going to distract from focusing on getting good grades and doing well, or whatever it is you need to do in order to do well in your chosen field, then that's a decision for you to make for yourself.
Thank you so much. The next question, again, for everyone. Can you speak to the importance of internships, research opportunities, and other extracurricular activities in enhancing the academic experience and prepping students for their future careers?
So what I would say is that there's a lot of learning that can be done in classrooms, but a lot and a very important part of your learning is done outside the classroom. I'm a big advocate for summer jobs, internships, and whatnot. I think that really builds your experience. You learn to read people, you learn to manage people's expectations, your communication skills get a lot better. Research is also really good. Doing work with a professor in your undergraduate degree is really good. Again, if you're in high school right now, the biggest advice I would say is get involved in clubs, whatever clubs you have going on in your school. Try to, maybe do a project if you can with one of your teachers that you really like. For those of you in undergrad, I would definitely advise that if you're in your second year or third year, by then you should build your relationship with your professors, because they can write you the reference letters later on when you're applying to grad schools. They can write you the reference letters for jobs that you want to apply. Your internships and your work that you do during your studies, alongside your studies, actually lead to your professional development later on. Most of the internships and work that I did ended up, first of all, it gave me a lot to write about in my personal statement when I applied to law school, but also it gave me references that I could rely upon. It gave me the skills that I could learn. There's learning that's done in the classroom that's book smart, and then work that you do in your professional career that makes you street smart. It makes you able to read people, because ultimately when you enter the workforce and you make your career, you're not going to be in a library, although there are some people that love being in libraries and whatnot, but if you're going to be engaged with people and you're going to be working with people, it's critical that you learn those skills of how to be a part of the workforce. And I think also just doing work, you get to save some money, you get some allowance to spend, go out with your friends, eat out, whatever it is. It's also just, it gives you meaning, you're providing for yourself, or maybe, you save some money, you give it to your family, you buy your siblings gifts, you buy your parents gifts, whatever it is. Doing work alongside your studies or doing work in your summers and whatnot gives you a lot more meaning and substance to your learning.
Another benefit I'll go ahead and add on to Faris's answer is that there's a very good exploratory aspect to either working a job, or if it's an internship, or if it's volunteering or extracurriculars. It really gives you an idea of what you like doing and what you feel confident doing. And it'll really open your eyes with regards to the kinds of skills you can learn and you can sort of implement in yourself, things you thought you never really had. For me personally, I was always a really shy, sort of soft-spoken person who found it difficult to like speak in a room full of people or to lead a group of people. But when I started volunteering and really getting myself out there, I found just how fulfilling and honestly how enjoyable it can be. It opened me to, you know, consider things like education and teaching and volunteering in the community. So one thing I'll add is it's really going to open your horizons if you go out and you start working or you volunteer or you're doing some kind of extracurriculars. Honestly, I wouldn't even say that what you're doing is as important as just doing something at all, because at the very least you're going to go out there and you're going to learn something. It might not even be as important as you need, but it's better than sitting around and doing nothing, right? And even if you don't like what you end up doing, let's say you volunteer in a certain in the community and you do a certain something that's in a certain field and you don't like it, well, at the very least you have that experience and you can say that, hey, it's not just like some random Google search where I searched up, what's a day in the life of an engineer, that's telling you that you don't want to be an engineer. Rather, it's that you have that experience and you can say to yourself with confidence that I tried, I spent some time doing that thing and now that's not something I want to do. And you can move on to the next thing and sort of try to understand what it is that you want to do. So to basically recap, I would say that internships, working, volunteering, extracurriculars, on top of all the wonderful points that Faris very eloquently made, I would say that it'll also help you understand what are the things that you are interested in and what you're passionate about. And I promise you'll be so surprised about the things that you find you will enjoy doing that you previously never really would have expected yourself to.
Thank you. I think those are all excellent points, and I have very little to add to that. It was really great advice from both. The only thing that I would just say is do what you are passionate about and what you care about. I think Farah said earlier about like there's barakah in doing things that you're passionate about. Try to do that. You will not know how much it will come and help you even years and years from now. Being like, I had that experience from ages ago where I really went into depth about this one thing. I made connections, I met people, I tried to help the community. Those things always come back and they help you. The other reason that you won't think about now, but will play into effect like 10 years from now is when you're in the habit of being able to manage your school responsibilities with your home responsibilities, with extracurriculars and internships and things like that, it teaches you a lot of skills about prioritization and work-life balance. One thing where people that, especially the young ones here, that are interested in doing something that's going to take several years of your life to get to, like if you're doing post-grad degrees, there's this tendency of people to be like, I'll start living life when I'm done. And you can't start living your life once you turn 30, 35. You have to keep living life while you're doing everything. So being involved, doing extracurriculars, being involved in clubs, being involved in volunteering will teach you how to live your life while you're still studying, while you're still taking care of your family.
Thank you so much. Cool. I just wanted to add on to the last point you made about time management and whatnot. What advice can you give to students on how to effectively balance academic commitments with other responsibilities such as work, family obligations, coming to center, or any other extracurricular activities?
I'll be honest, I'm really not good at managing my time. I'm still learning how. If I could give one piece of advice, it's to really go ahead and throw yourself in there and just have a bunch of things to do and sort of just learn experientially. And it's really better than just sitting around and doing nothing. Once you have that pressure on you, like Raza Bhai was saying, he gave a very beautiful explanation of how when we are in difficult situations, it sort of forces us to learn. That'll be really good. So find out whatever it is you want to do, or like I said before, doing something is better than nothing, even if you're not sure that it's the thing you want to do. Start volunteering, study hard, make sure you're getting good grades, and you'll feel that pressure coming up, and eventually you'll see how managing your time works well for you. But besides that, I'm really looking forward to what these two have to say, so I can learn how to manage my time better.
So what I would say is learn to say no. That's what I would say. And what I mean by that is if you make the decision that, okay, I have a certain objective I want to meet and I want to meet some certain goals and whatnot, there's going to be a lot of opportunities down the road where you can go hang out with friends, go do whatever, just chill, like not decide, like you say to yourself that, I can just take a break, whatever. But you have to say no. you have to have that boundary within yourself that makes you come back onto the path that you've determined for yourself that you want to go on. And saying no is often really difficult because sometimes saying no can be with some of your closest friends, sometimes even family. Like sometimes I remember there was moments in which I had to tell my parents that, listen, I need to study for this exam and I can't go to this dawat that you guys want me to go to. Like, trust me, I don't even know who was at the dawat. But, you know, saying no allows you to have the spare time, because let's be honest, like we have 24 hours in a day, sure, but 8 of those hours, if you're not a night owl, you're sleeping. And then a couple of those other hours, you're probably on your phone, because phones are a big distraction nowadays as well. You know, some of that time is spent eating and some of that time is spent with family and whatnot. To manage your time, you need to learn to prioritize. You need to learn to say, okay, family time is important for me. Friends I can chill with every other week or whatnot. But then the rest of the time I need to devote towards my career, my education, whatnot. And for me, I'm still a little bit old-fashioned in this sense. I use an agenda or a planner or whatever you guys call it. I like to write everything down. I have it like before I start my week, I try to look at, and again, I'm still learning this as well. Trust me, I'm learning as well. I try to have things in advance of my week, so I know, okay, Monday we'll have to do this, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, okay, this, Friday evening I'm blocking off, I'm gonna spend that with my family. Or if it's like another day, if I have some friends, like we're making plans, whatnot, I try to I budget for that as well. It's really hard to start learning how to time manage, but trust me, the earlier you start learning how to manage your time, the more it's gonna pay off later on. And you don't have to be so technical or advanced about this. Like you can just have a basic agenda that you can buy from Dollarama and just start doing it, like writing out, okay, what your week is looking like. But that'll create your own mental sanity, and it'll also allow you to have time. Disciplining your time will allow you to have more freedom over your time. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, I agree with everything. I also concur. Time management is a struggle for me. And I think that's a lesson for everyone, that it's hard. Managing your time is hard, but learning those skills early helps. And I think we need to stop thinking about time management and prioritization as the end goal. It should be a process. You have to learn what works for you. Be very purposeful about what works for me in time management. For some people, that's like a desk calendar, right? Some people, it's an agenda, like Faraz was saying. Some people, it's phone reminders, right? Try different strategies until you find what works for you. You have time right now. You're very young. You're still growing into your personalities. Keep working on those. And then if you're 5 years from now, okay, the strategies I was using 5 years were not working for me, change it, right? Try something new. The other thing I agree with, know your priorities. I think Raza had a very good advice on it. Divide your day into 4 parts, right? Work on your career. Don't neglect your family. Don't neglect your deen. Don't neglect your health. Because once you're out there in post-secondary education, there's going to be thousands and thousands of influences pulling you in many directions. And your family and your deen are the first lines of defense for you. You don't want to lose yourself in the process. So make time for those, prioritize those as well. And the other thing to the parents, again, I feel like I can say this, be nice to your kids. This is the time for them to work hard, focus on school, get good grades. Try to be understanding of the fact, if your kids have exams coming up, they have assignments they're working on, don't pressure them to go to that dawat that maybe they don't have to go to. I remember Asaf had said, and when I was in university, and this was mind-blowing to me, he said he had an exam in Hawza around the nights of Shab Qadr, and his teacher at the time told him, Asad, your ibadat right now is studying, right? So if your ibadah that day is studying, then you need to study. I'm not saying neglect your deen, neglect your soul. Don't do that. Your deen is important. Your family is important. But know which things you can say no to, right? And parents also be understanding of that sometimes your kids are not going to show up everywhere. And that's okay.
Thank you so much. Law and medicine, very long journeys. How do you recommend that students sort of stay on track, stay motivated, stay focused? And we've already sort of talked about this, but not get distracted by all the things going on inside.
Yeah, that's a good question. again, one thing I've been repeating is there's so many different things you can do. It's definitely a difficult pressure on you when you are attempting to pursue something like law or medicine, and you see just how many years it takes. You know, it can take 3 to 4 years of undergraduate education, and then followed that by that 3 to 4 years of medical school, and then there's the whole journey of residency and fellowship and all that after medicine. And while you're, you know, even thinking about doing this, you might have friends that are going to college for 2 or 3 years and then they're already making good money, or just going to university for 4 years. I would go ahead and cite Faris's answer earlier, where you really need to have a good understanding of yourself. And one thing I would really recommend for you guys is to have a really, really good understanding of what you want to do. And really do please be passionate about it. Because like Faris said earlier, if you are not sincerely passionate about it, then a journey that's as difficult and as grueling, as well as long as the educational journey of law and medicine are, then it's going to break you. That's just the reality, is that it's too tough, and eventually you might think that, hey, I might as well just do something easier because it's more convenient for me. So one of the most important things you can do is, you know, sit down, speak with people like we were saying earlier, introspect, ask yourself what kind of a difference you want to make in the community, what are some things that you're interested in, like much of the advice we've already said. Have a good understanding of what you want to do and why you want to do it, and that will be your motivation. Besides that, one other thing I have to say is that if you do want to do something good in life, if you do want to do something remarkable or exceptional, you will fail again and again and again. I don't need to repeat this. Raza really did a phenomenal job of delivering this message earlier, but please do your best to get used to it as soon as you can. And I hope this doesn't come off as insensitive or something. Be patient with yourself, be compassionate towards yourself. Understand that you will try your best and you will still make mistakes, but a part of the process is that you will get disappointed again and again, and be okay with it. It's life. Eventually, inshallah, you will get to a place that you're happy with, but it will take time. So when you are considering these journeys like law or medicine or lots of other career paths, do take a long time for you to get established. As far as I'm concerned, there's no career path where you start and you finish within 5 years and you're making 6 figures and doing really, really well. Regardless of what you choose, it's going to be very, very difficult. So please be ready to fail and be okay with it. It's fine. Learn from it and move forwards.
I think Faris mentioned earlier, like, know your why and the how comes. If you keep revisiting your why, it's a very long journey. You will change as a person, your life will change, your priorities will change. If that why is still true for you when you're, 21 ready to apply to medicine, when you're 24 ready to apply to residency, then you'll face all those challenges. Your why might change, right? And that's okay. You don't know who you are at 17. You're going to be a different person, and that's okay. The one thing I would tell you is the same thing I told you earlier. Keep all the doors open for yourself. Make sure you have a backup and a second backup, because life throws curveballs. You might change your mind. You might not, whatever happens, right? Like, it's any industry that you want to go in and be very successful in is going to be very competitive. Lots of people want to go there. There's lots of ways to be successful. So for me, that was the most important thing for me, is if I didn't get into medicine, what is my backup? What am I going to do with my life? And I had parallel planned that route, and that was very important for me.
So the way that I personally would think about it, and Fatma gave this really good piece of advice that the how comes as well, but I would say that backup, on the point of backup options, for me personally, and every person's unique, as much as having a backup option is good and it allows you to have flexibility, exactly what Fatma's saying, it's good to know and have an idea of what a backup option could be. You shouldn't think too much about the backup option to risk confusing yourself, because when you want to go in and this is just for me personally, I don't want to cause a debate, but what I would say is that you don't think about your plan B as much. Keep it in the back of your mind, like if things don't go the way that you'd planned, but really put the focus on the plan A, because you need to try the plan A at least. You need to have the contentment within yourself and the no regrets in your mind that, listen, I tried, I had tawakkul on Allah. If it works, it works. If it sticks, it does. If it doesn't stick, then, it's okay. I can go to my plan B because I've thought about this plan B. But having sometimes too much options is kind of like Netflix. You have too many shows and you don't know what to watch. And you're like, for 20 minutes, you're just trying to figure out. And so that can, just drawing that metaphor to life, sometimes when you have too many options, it can confuse you. So that's what I would say. In terms of distractions and mistakes, you're gonna get distracted, I'm telling you right now. Like, there's not a single person in here that's not gonna get distracted on their way to achieving whatever they wanna achieve. The extent of the distraction is obviously dependent upon you, but we all will get distracted, we're all human beings. So again, to echo what was already mentioned, be content with the fact that you will get distracted and you will make mistakes. Learn to forgive yourself. Sometimes I know, for me, we have like that desi parent running in our head that, oh, look, see, dekha ye ho gaya. Like, sometimes we have that running in our head. But you have to learn to forgive yourself, because if you don't learn to forgive yourself, every single mistake you make, you'll just self-sabotage yourself, and you'll start doubting yourself, and you won't actually be able to continue walking forward. So that's the biggest piece of advice that I would say to you all.
All right, we have time for only one more question, unfortunately, and this is maybe the most important one. How can parents support their children throughout this journey of navigating career paths and higher academic education? I know especially that there's a lot of stress perhaps coming from parents, there's a lot of support coming from parents. So how can parents help their child as much as possible?
I'll keep my answer fairly short, or at least I'll try to. But the theme that I would stress again and again is that of patience. My own lovely parents are here in attendance today, and they have shown me so much patience each and every time I have made a small mistake or a big mistake. My journey was not linear. It was not that I finished high school and went to university and went to medical school. I did finish university in 2021, and I spent some time a little confused about what I wanted to do, and then around 2.5 years afterwards, I started medical school, a little bit older than most of the people in my class. And each and every time, I wasn't sure about what I wanted to do, or I tried to write a certain entrance exam or something for medical school, and it didn't work out the way I wanted. My parents were consistently and always understanding and appreciative of the effort I put in, and really that's what's important. We've been talking today about how important the process is and not necessarily the outcome. So parents, please do appreciate the effort and the process that your children are putting in, and eventually they will get that good outcome. Of course, it's something that God promises in the Qur'an. There's nothing to doubt about that. It's just it might take some more time. Adding on to that, please don't compare with other people, because again, everyone's story is going to be different. So please do appreciate the beauty that is there in your child's story. Every child is different, and please be patient. And if you are patient, then you don't have to hear it from me. You can open the Qur'an and see that God promises that with hardship comes ease. So please do be patient and appreciate the effort that they put in, and eventually it will all be worth it.
Yeah, it's hard on parents. It really is, especially people that just came to this country. Everything is a black box. Nothing makes sense. Things are very different than the education system you're from. And also, the workplace you're currently in, or the work environment you're in, is going to be 20 years out of date by the time your kids graduate. And how to navigate that uncertainty is also very hard. I think the main things I would say is seek advice from people that are already out there. You're well positioned in the community compared to your kids to talk to people, to make those connections for your children. I remember when I was young, my dad would literally drive me 2 hours to meet people that he thought were exemplary and have a conversation with them about what their advice was. And those things were incredible. The other thing is always support your kids. As Zen said, your kids are gonna fail a lot. And sometimes the fear of disappointing your parents is worse than the failure, because they want to impress you. They want you to be happy with them, right? So always support your kids, always push them. Sometimes they fear failure, so they won't go forward. So encourage them, tell them it's okay, keep going. If you don't try, it's not going to happen, but keep going. I think those things are all very important. The other thing is, if your kids are telling you, no, I really don't want to do this, I really don't want to do, I want to go into this thing, and you don't agree with them, try to have a frank conversation with them. Talk to them about why. And I think you might be very impressed about the maturity of their thought process. And just consider what they're saying. And I think the same thing with kids. If your parents really don't agree with you, and you have a certain goal in mind, and they don't think that's appropriate, just talk to them about why. right? Raza said this incredible story about his grandfather and his father and all of those things. If he didn't sit down and talk to them about where they came from, he wouldn't understand why his parents were so afraid about certain things, right? And I think it's the same thing for all of us. There's a lot of wisdom to be had if we have those conversations with each other.
So I think that was great advice. The only thing I'd add to that is a saying from Imam Ali alayhi salam, salawat. And I'd actually love for a brother or sister, whoever can double check me on this hadith. But so one of my mentors told me that Imam Ali said to one of his companions that listen to your children because they were born for a generation that you were not born for. And so what I took from that is that our parents, and may Allah bless our parents because they undertook the challenge of coming to a new country regardless of their background, leaving behind so many of their, extended family and everything, a life that they knew and whatnot, to come to Canada and to build a future for them. But that was their challenge. What is our challenge? We are here now. What is our challenge? What are we meant to do? And I think that for the thing I would say to the parents is to understand that you did the first step. Now, inshallah, the tarbiyat and the way that you've raised your kids will, hold fast to them. But they have a different challenge. They are built for, let's say, like for me personally, the reason why I got involved in law is that my parents undertook, the challenge of immigrating to Canada and, setting up a future for us. It's incumbent upon me to understand the laws that govern this country and to understand what this country is all about. A lot of communities of immigrants in this country have understood the challenges that their ancestors and their parents faced and grandparents faced, but they got involved and they built a community for themselves. So every generation, I believe that every generation has its own challenge. Allah has put upon a set of responsibilities and challenges that the next generation has to follow. And I think Imam Ali has said that immaculately and eloquently as he has always, that your children were born for a different generation than you. And so I think that understanding that parents, understanding that idea and keeping that in the back of your mind when you have conversations with your kids will allow you to have more empathy. Because sometimes, I know this from my mom and my dad, and my sister's here, she can attest to this as well. Sometimes when our parents speak about from their position, they tend to think that, they're trying to do what's best for us, not realizing that when they're trying to give advice, it can sometimes ignore what we're trying to say. But I think parents, they come from sincere intentions. Most parents, mashallah, they come from really sincere intentions to do the best for their kids. But I think keeping this in mind, that your children were born for a different generation and different challenges, will inshallah help that conversation become a lot smoother.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have today for the panel. I would like to, on behalf of Mahdi Youth and everyone else present here today, I would like to thank the three of you so much for your insightful answers. And now we'll turn it over to Brother Ashad with a loud salawat.
Thank you so much, Brother Faris, Brother Zain, and Sister Fatima. A special thank you to Brother Zahid for hosting that portion. So now we are going to proceed to the open networking and booth visits portion. I just wanted to share some information about this part of the event. So alhamdulillah, we have gathered a team of over 35 student ambassadors. So these are university students, either at their undergraduate or graduate level, who are here to represent their programs and talk to you and your kids. They represent over 20 different undergraduate and graduate level programs and over 10 post-secondary institutions. I would request that you all shift your attention towards the screens where you will see a layout of where these booths are. So we will be using both the men's hall and ladies hall. Zaya, I think that's a bit too small, so we can maybe open up one at a time. But essentially, yes, we will be using both this men's hall as well as the hall that's right beside us, the ladies hall. And we've separated or grouped the programs accordingly. So we have, for example, like engineering and comp-sci in one area. We have social sciences and med in one area, just so it's a bit easier for you all to follow along. We also have an information booth. So any parents who are wondering about what the process is for applying as grade 12 students and individuals who want to know about the timelines for applications, we have a booth for that as well, where you could get more information. And we will also have a table over here in the middle for snacks, inshallah. So I'm just going to ask the high school students and parents to stay seated for a second. And I'm going to ask the student ambassadors, so the individuals with the name tags, if you can please stand up and go towards where your table is located on this map. I'm so sorry, it's small, but I've sent it in our group chat as well. So for all the student ambassadors, the individuals with the name tags, if you all can please stand up and just go towards where your table will be located using the map that you see at the front. If I can ask all the students, the high school students and parents, to please still stay seated as we navigate this. And as those student ambassadors are making their way towards their booths, brothers and sisters, if I could please request everyone's attention, everyone's attention, please. As everyone is making their way to the booths, I'm going to ask the students to feel free to stop by as many booths as they want to. This is your opportunity. This is your chance to learn about different programs. So inshallah, make the most of this opportunity. Student ambassadors, please, if we can talk after, inshallah, let's go towards our booths, and then inshallah we can talk after. Our student ambassadors, if we can please make our way towards our booths, and then inshallah talk after. It's me right over here, maybe. Yeah. Yeah, I think some tables. Set up the tables at the back. Are they set up?
Not yet. We have to get those people to move.
Okay. Okay, so it seems like we have the student ambassadors in their respective areas. So now if I can ask the parents and students to please stand up. And please stack your chairs to the row in front of you, please, just so we have some space at the back to work with as we place our tables there. So if you all can please stack the chairs in front of you.